Welcome back to the channel. We're back with another Bloomburrow Commander deck profile. Today with the infamous Cruelclaw. We got one a black and a red for Reroute Menace. That helps us get cards off the top of our deck until we get a non-land card that we could cast rather than paying its mana spell. All we have to do is discard a card. So we have plenty of high mana value spells that normally we wouldn't want to pay the casting cost for in this deck, but if you're only paying the cost of discarding a card, that's much less than 12 mana that we normally spend. We have other ways to get some extra combats in here to make sure that we're getting multiple cards during multiple cards during the same turn. Ways to make them unblockable to make sure we can get that damage on, and other ways to cascade off those big spells. Ways to make sure we get what we want off the top of the library. Whole bunch of fun stuff here in this deck. But that's the general overview. Let's get into it card by card. Starting off, we have Arcane Signet for some mana. Balls of Citadel, this way you could see what's on top of our library. If it's something like a 2 mana spell, let's just cast it. If it's one of our 12 mana spells, let's not waste our time using our life total for that. Let's go ahead and just discard a card to get that rather than 12 life. Or, if it is a land, let's swing an Infamous Cruelclaw till we get to something, and then keep on going with Balls of Citadel so we're not running into a problem that you get with Balls of Citadel a lot of times. Brotherhood Regalia in order to make the infamous Cruelclaw unblockable, to make sure we can deal that damage to get those cards. Fire Shrieker, equip creatures Double Strike. When you have Double Strike, you have 2 different instances of dealing combat damage with the infamous Cruelclaw, so you're going to get 2 cards off the top of your deck, as long as you have the cards in your hand. You do have quite a bit of draw power in here to make sure that we could get that as well. Genji Glove. Equipped creature also has Double Strike, so we get those 2 instances of the infamous Cruelclaw, but on top of that, we're going to get 4 this turn, as long as we have the cards in our hand, of course, because we're going to get an extra combat phase with just the infamous Cruelclaw, or anything else we have untapped, but it's the only one that does untap. And if we have another way to give the things we cheated in haste, potentially we could swing in with them as well. Lightning Grease. Speaking of ways to give our creatures haste, we have this right here. Also, make sure the infamous Cruelclaw can attack turn he comes down, to make sure we're getting that right away. Portal of Phyrexia, one of those expensive spells where you could spend 9 mana to cast it. I mean, it's still a good trade-off because you're removing 3 of each of your opponent's things and getting a whole bunch of stuff back. But, I mean, why pay that when you could just discard a card? Sensei's Divining Top, in order to determine what we're going to get off the top of our library, let's take a look. Maybe we want the Sensei's Divining Top again. But no, you're really just going to try to reorder your stuff so that you're getting what you want to cast, and then putting the land after that, and then casting what you want to get again. Soul Ring for some additional mana. Swiftfoot Boots in order to get that haste to make sure the infamous Cruelclaw could attack the turn he comes down. Talisman of Indulgence for that mana. Trailblazer Boots. Another way to make him semi-unblockable, because most players have non-basic lands, at least if one. And then that, no, it doesn't give haste. I always thought this did. Vorak, Battlehorns, equip creatures trample and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So that counteracts with the Menace, can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, but has to be blocked by more than 1 creature. So it's basically unblockable with the infamous Cruelclaw with this. And Whispersill Cloak for that little bit of added protection, along with the unblockable to make sure we get that damage in. We have Anger, a good card to discard, because once it's in the graveyard, it gives all of our creatures haste, including the infamous Cruelclaw, but, you know, sometimes you just want this to give your other things haste. Archon of Cruelty, enters battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card and loses 3 life, you draw a card and gain 3 life. Normally 8 mana for a 6/6 with flying, but discarding a card to deal all that damage, deal all the disruption of your opponent's stuff, really good trade-off there. Ardent Usurper, demons you control have menace, lifelink, and haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target creature from your graveyard. If you exile a card this way, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 5/5 black demon. So, you're going to be discarding cards, and sometimes you're going to have to discard your 12 mana spell. But why worry about have that discarded when you could just get it back? Artisan of Kozilek, another 9 mana spell that we want to cheat in. Oh, also he's 8 mana, but discarding a card, get him in super easily. Artisan of Kozilek, return target creature card from your graveyard when this card is cast. We do cast with the infamous Cruelclaw, it doesn't just count as putting on the battlefield, so we do get that first ability. And Annihilator too is always fun, right? Everyone loves Annihilator. Blightsteel Colossus, Trample, Infect, Indestructible, 12 mana spell for just for the cost of discarding a card. Infect super cool, especially if we have the way to get this on like turn 4 and your opponent doesn't have any way to block this, and we had the extra combat. Oof. Emrakul, The World Anew, another high cost spell that we're going to take just for the cost of discarding a card. Whenever you cast a spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls, flying protection from spells and from permanents that were cast this turn. And then when he leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures they control. He has a Madness to pay 6 mana, so if we do discard him, we still have the mana to cast him potentially. If we don't discard him, we could discard something to cast him. And I'd say it's a pretty good ability. Especially if we have those extra combats to swing in with those creatures. Vitality Primal Storm. Another way to cast some free spells. We're casting our opponent's stuff this time around rather than our own though. Harvek, the Merciless. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, deal damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. So normally we're paying 7 mana for this, but may as well get it for free. Karlach, Fury of Avernus, another way to enable those extra combats here for us, and, discarding a card for a 5-mana spell. Kafka, Dancing Man, during your turn, has Indestructible. At the beginning of your end step, exile a card at random from each opponent's graveyard. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. Then each player who owns a spell this way loses life equal to the mana value. Yeah, so it's from each opponent's graveyard. So you're not getting your own stuff that you discarded, unfortunately. But still, being able to get your opponent's stuff for just cost discarding a card, I'll take that deal. Lizard Blades, another way to give Infamous Cruelclaw double strike to make sure we get those 2 instances. Shoulder, the Whispering One. Once again, we're going to be discarding some of our good creatures. We may as well have a way to get them back. Summon Bahamut, normally a 9-mana spell, for the low cost of discarding a card. You get a little bit of removal, you get a little bit of draw power, and a lot of burn damage, especially with how high the mana value of a lot of these spells are. Ulamog, Ceaseless Hunger, normally 10-mana spell. Now it's for cost of discarding a card. When you cast a spell, exile 2 target permanents. Not necessarily our own. It could be our own. I mean, it doesn't say up to, so you may have to do your own. But your opponent's going to have lands, probably. And then Indestructible, whenever he attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 of their library, potentially decking our opponent out. Valgavat, Terror Eater. Once again, we're going to be putting cards into our graveyard. Those we can't reanimate, but with how powerful our creatures are, we're going to be destroying a lot of our opponent's stuff as well. So, may as well get that for just a little cost of discarding a card. And Wild Magic Sorcerer, first spell you cast from exile each turn has Cascade. So, I mean, unfortunately, these are coming from the top of our deck, not exile, but we have a Vitality Primal Storm. So that does give some of our other spells exile, thankfully. Aggravated Assault gives us those extra combats to swing in with our creatures the turn that we got them down. Eldrazi Conscription, enchant creature. It's an 8-mana spell that we're getting for free. Gets +10/+10 and Annihilator 2. Give the Infamous Cruelclaw a little bit of trample while we're at it to make sure we get that combat damage in. Passionate Archaeologist, whenever we cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to the target opponent. Another way to benefit off of casting some of our spells from exile, which we have a few things that we'll be getting to shortly. And then Phyrexian Arena for that draw power, because we're going to need cards in our hand to make sure we have stuff to discard to cast our stuff. For our instance, we have Bedevil for removal, Blood for the Blood God, normally an 11-mana spell. Normally it could be a 3-mana spell if that many creatures die. But discard your hand, draw 8, deal 8 damage to each opponent. Really good ability there, because sometimes that's just all you need to win the game. Chaos Warp for the removal, Dark Ritual for the mana, Dark Withering. Normally you're going to be paying the Madness cost risk, because this is one you don't mind discarding. Fated Return, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under our control. It also gains Indestructible. So maybe one of those cards we discarded, we're getting it back. I mean, it's 7 mana, but if we could cast this for free with Infamous Cruelclaw, I think that's worth it. Rakdos Charm for either a little bit of removal, graveyard hate, or, just a little bit of damage. Savage Beating, creatures you control gain double strike. Once again, we want to make sure Infamous Cruelclaw has double strike to make sure we get that effect twice. Yeah, and also you get an extra combat phase too. And Vampire Tutor, put whatever card you want from your deck on top in order to cast that spell from an Infamous Cruelclaw's attack. I mean, normally your opponent will do everything they can to make sure you don't, so by having their removal up, their blockers up, but if they don't see it coming, they don't see it coming. Army of the Damned, create 13 tap 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, normally 8 mana spell, but getting it for free is nice. And then there's a flashback for 10, so if we are at a point in the game where we somehow have 10 mana, we have that ability too. Blasphemous Act for a board wipe. Breach the multiverse in order to recur some of our best stuff from our deck. Also mail out our opponents a little bit more. Call forth the Tempest. Cascade. Normally 8 mana, but we get to Cascade for 8, just off the cost of discarding a card. Deals damage to each creature and each opponent equal to the total mana value of spells you've cast this turn. I mean, that's 8 mana alone. Yeah. Call of the Netherworld. Return target black creature from your graveyard to your hand. Madness cost is 0, so we're going to get this for free just by discarding it and get back one of the cards we discarded. Or, just overall just getting something back that you discarded is super helpful with this. Fevered Suspicion. Each opponent exiles a card from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among those non-land cards without paying their mana cost. So once again, another way to get some spells for free. You're getting this for free in the first place. You also rebound it. Benefit off those cards that we had earlier that we saw that benefit off of casting cards from exile. You may want to replace some of your those 2 cards I was mentioning earlier. Sorry about that. The Passionate Archaeologist and what was it? Wild Magic Sorcerer with something else, maybe another extra combat spell if you can find one. But I personally just like having them just for that. A couple options we do have. Full Throttle for the extra combats. Fury the Horde. You may exile 2 red cards from your hand rather than pay this mana cost, but get the extra combat phase as well, making so that we could get the multiple triggers there with Infinite Cruelclaw. One thing to note with these, so it says after this main phase, if you get this off the top of your library with the Infamous Cruelclaw's ability, it won't work because it says after this main phase. If you're at the battle phase, because it needs to be after this main phase, but you're not in a main phase, so it basically fizzles. Same thing with this one, at this main phase. Imperial Seal, search your library for a card, put it on top. Once again, same as Vampire Tutor, only 1 mana to get our best card for free. In Garrick's Wake, in order to board wipe our opponents to make sure that Infinite Cruelclaw could swing in for free, especially for getting those extra combats, getting this for free for only the discard card for a 9 mana spell. I'd like to see it. Justice Will, another way to have some cards we're casting from exile, another way to get some additional mana. Knight's Whisper for that draw power, because we're going to need cards in our hand. Overpowering Attack, some more extra combats, we like to see it. Plague Wind, destroy all creatures you don't control, another way to make sure we're dealing that damage to our opponent by board wiping them and not us. Reanimate, to reanimate our best stuff that we've been discarding. Relentless Assault for that additional combat phase. Rise of the Dark Realms, we're going to be destroying a bunch of our opponent's stuff because we have super powerful creatures and they're going to want to block us. So, may as well get that back, along with all the stuff that we've been discarding. An additional combat phase with Seize the Day. World at War, an additional combat phase with this as well. And Worldfire. Some people just build this deck only for Worldfire, which is a fun card. Exile all permanents, all cards from all hands and graveyards. Each player's life total becomes 1. It's all up to what you top deck, or if you have enough mana to cast... well, no, you won't have any mana because exile all permanents. So it's whoever can get that 1 damage first. But that's the deck there. I'm just going to scroll through the lands as I always do. But thanks so much for tuning into the video. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. If you have your own comments on how you'd run the deck, leave it down there as well. But thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.